Come Play is a brand new 2020 monster flick and is essentially what I would assume most people wanted out of the Babadook. The people who didn't like it, they just wanted more monster action. You've got an autistic kid here who's given his parents some fits, especially the mom, and he can not really communicate, so he communicates through his iPad. And while he's on that, he finds this story about this monster like creature that wants to be his friend. And of course, this monster starts coming through his iPad to be his friend and take him away to his dimension. And, of course, the parents want to fight back against this, and you can figure out kind of how the movie plays out from there. Now, this kind of has a similar tone to something like A Darkness Falls, A Lights Out, kind of maybe a little too much for a small kid, but a good, like, middle of the road starter film for maybe, 10, 12 and up. That's not going to appeal to a decent amount of my audience who are all about the hard R-rated films. This isn't for you. This is more of like a family drama, but there's a lot of the monster in this movie. So this is why I'm saying, because it's a kid and her mom and the monster's coming after him. It just feels like the Babadook when you're watching it. As far as the narrative, it feels nothing like the Babadook as far as a film goes, because that's just, a much different kind of film. But I just know that comparisons will be drawn here, and as I said at the beginning, I think this is what I would assume a lot of Babadook haters were wanting from it. Just a lot more of the Babadook, a lot of more monster film. A traditional monster film, which is exactly what this is, except for this is dealing with modern day technology, which seems to be kind of the go-to with writers these days. They're trying to appeal to the times with things that are relevant now. And, towards the end, they go for some pretty strong emotional beats, which I actually think they land rather well. The kids in this movie are pretty good. I mean, considering, how kids actors are. The only issue that you run into with any kids centric horror film is that unless it's like very, very specific kinds of movies that have the balls to do it, that the kids are probably not going to die. So that takes a lot of the tenseness out of it in certain sequences, because you're like, they're not going to kill a fucking kid. So that is a shame. And anybody who thinks that's a spoiler is out of their minds. Like, these kinds of movies, they're not going to fucking kill a kid. They're just not going to do it. So that's why films like this, I feel like, lose their horror audience, is because, and I'm going to say this, I really am fucking like, I feel very strongly about this. If you're going to put a bunch of kids in your movie, have the balls to kill one or two of them. I know people are, I don't want to see kids dead in horror movies. Okay, then A, don't watch movies with, or horror movies with kids in them. And B, then don't fucking put kids in your horror movies. Like, they're fair game. And they need to be. If they're going to be characters in a horror film, they have to be able to die. So anyway, but I just think that always limits these kinds of movies. That being said, I think the horror in this plays fairly typical, but I did like the monster when it is shown. It has kind of a lengthy appearance, or lanky appearance. Maybe something like that Blair Witch, the newer one. And I liked it when we do see it, and we do see it a good amount, but we see it up close. It's got some good practicals to it, and there's some CG in this as well. But the monster, from what I could tell, was not fully CG. Did have some practical elements to it, and I did like it. This is one that I think that if you're into those kinds of movies, like the aforementioned Lights Out, Darkness Falls, whatever, I think this is worth a watch. I think it's a fun, it's a fun little monster movie that has some good emotional beats in a family drama kind of way that land fairly well. If you're invested in it at all. I mean, if you're like 45 minutes into this and you're like, I don't give a shit about this kid, I don't give a shit about this monster, I don't give a shit, then shut it off, obviously. Although, obviously, you can't watch it at home right now. But whenever you do get to this, I just think that I think you know what you're getting yourself into. So if you're into these kinds of movies, I think it's a decent one. You know, it's worth a watch in my opinion. But nothing to get crazy about. I didn't love it or anything, but I did enjoy it. The characters themselves. Now this is based on a short film, which I don't think I've seen, but check that out, and maybe that will give you an idea. But as I said, can't really speak to that effect because I haven't seen the thing. I just know that it is based on that short. But yeah, if you like those kinds of movies, check it out and let me know. Adios.